welcome to Community Classroom Yoga. I'm Noah Krol. I'm here with Cameron and Nicole. Today we'll do a little bit of a hamstring and hip opener, in particular maybe to help to free up some low back problems or well, just general tightness and stiffness in the hips. So let's start on our backs. You can just find yourself into a nice deep breath. A lot of times we get stuck, and we'll do a bit more forward folding as a practice today. We get stuck and think, oh, our hamstrings are tight, I can't fold forward, I can't touch my toes. And quite often there's a lot of connective tissue that comes up from the IT bands across the big muscles of the bum into the lats or the muscles of the shoulders. So we'll work to open that all up a little bit to create a bit more space for the hips and the low back so they feel a bit more maybe free and open and less heavy and creating lethargy in the body. Good. We'll take one more deep breath here. The inner legs can come a bit closer together. And as you're ready, you can draw your right knee into the chest. Just give it a good squeeze in. As you draw the knee inwards, the hip's going to want to hike up to the ribs. So right into that hip crease where the inner thigh meets the belly. Sink it and move it away from the rib cage. As you sink it and move it away, the IT band, again, some of this dense connective tissue that comes up the outer leg is going to want to roll the knee open. So just play a little bit. Kind of roll and squeeze the knee in. The hip will want to hike up. Sink the hip away, the knee will want to roll open. And just a few breaths. We'll start to find a little bit of both. Good. Full breath here. And then let's switch. Draw the left leg in, stretch the right leg long. There's no rush. When you get there, maybe the leg rolls in and out a little bit, just so you can feel like you can squeeze the knee in. And then in contrast, really sink and deepen right into that hip crease. We start to pull the knee in and we don't deepen in the hip crease. We tend to bunch in the hip flexors and the abdomen, the tops of the thighs. Good. So take one more breath here as is. And then slide your hands to the back of your left thigh. And just a few times. As you exhale, stretch your left leg as straight as you can towards the ceiling. As you inhale, bend the knee, press the heel to the hips. You might find that when you bend the knee, you can create a little bit of a pinch into the finger so that the back of the legs, the hamstrings get a little active. And then in contrast, as you exhale, you can tone the front of the thigh or the quads and give them a bit of a stretch. Good. One more breath here. The next time you stretch the leg straight, let's keep it there. As you extend up through the left thigh, the feeling of wanting to press the right leg, the heel, the knee down a little bit. Good. Full breath. And then release the left leg. Let's lie flat a moment. You may need to take an extra second, reposition the body if the hips feel a bit wonky. And then draw the right knee in. Squeeze it in for a moment. And then same thing, hands to the back of the thigh. Exhale, kick the leg up. Inhale, bend the knee. Just like when we have the knee into the chest, the more we start to extend out through the leg, the more it tends to want to hike up into the ribs. So it can be a gentle sense of continuing to extend the hip and thigh away from the rib cage. It creates a bit of an anchor that you can actually stretch something out of it, and the tightness doesn't just get shifted up and down or forward and back or whatever we're working with. Good. One more exhale, and then keep the legs straight. Same thing, a few breaths. As you extend up through the top leg, let that bottom leg really ground and root down. Again, it'll create a nice anchor to extend and reach out of. Good. Full breath more. Then you can just release as you exhale. Again, a moment, reposition the body if you need to feel a bit more neutral. We'll take a breath. Good. Next time that you inhale, let's plant both feet in front of the hips. The feet can step a little wider to the edges of the mat. Let the knees come together. Much like a pair of windshield wipers, both knees can drop side to side. They can come to the right, to the left. Good. Exhale one way, inhale to the midline, exhale to the other. Legs maybe resembling a bit like a windshield wiper going back and forth. As your legs come back and forth though, the knee that drops in, that hip tends to want to lift up off the ground. And then it switches back and forth, one side then the other. So this feeling maybe the back of the hips want to stay nice and heavy. The thigh bones can roll more into the socket as opposed to the movement coming in the hips and low back. Good. One more breath through each side. When you're even right to left or left to right, however you started, draw both knees back into the chest. Knees can be a little wider to help to keep the bum from curling up. Soften the groin crease and just settle. And although physically the breath isn't going to come all the way down into the hips and belly, the movement of the diaphragm is going to change a bit of a pressure change in the abdomen. It'll help to free up the deeper connective tissues into the hips. Good. One more breath. And then let's plant both feet on the ground in front of the hips. Heels and feet right under the knees. And then start to tip the hips forward and back. So inhale, tip your hips forward, create more of a back bend in the lower spine. Exhale, tip the hips back, create more of a rounding. The tendency as we exhale is the bum likes to get curled way up. So keep the back of the hips heavy and think more about the lower spine moving in and out, or the belly moving in and out. In this position, sort of up and down. Good. Let's take one more breath. The next time you find that back bend in the spine, hips can lift all the way up as high as they can. Little bridge. As the hips come up, you can draw the shoulders under the body a little bit, but keep the shoulders a little bit drawn up to the ears so we don't start to condense the upper chest. Let there be some room to expand and open the chest as we root through the feet. Good. Root into the head. Help support a little bit of lift up into the neck. The next time that you exhale, hips can come back down to the ground. Soles of the feet can come together. The knees can open wide. Just pause for a moment. This feeling as you sort of relax and allow the legs to settle with gravity. The knees widen out. The hips, the low back want to widen out. A bit of a bigger breath into the low belly, inner edges of the hip bones, the low back. Good. Full breath more. And then let's draw the knees back together. Good. Take that moment, settle the feet, and then arch the spine, lift the hips into the air. Good. So keep your right foot rooting quite heavy into the ground, but you can start to come up onto your left tippy toes. If you come up onto the tippy toes and your bum and hips start to drop, stay here. If you feel a bit of lift, the toes might come off the ground a little bit, and eventually the knee might come into the chest. As soon as you start to come up and you feel your body drop, really work that lift more than drawing the leg up. Good. Full breath. And then release the left leg, release the hips to the ground. Draw the right knee back into the chest and stretch your left leg long. Okay, so left leg can come to the ground, hands to the back of your right thigh, stretch the heel up again. Good. Full breath. And then bend your knee back into the chest. Right hand to the side as you inhale, and we'll roll onto our left hip as we exhale. You can twist. Might need to move the hip back to the center of the mat, or move the shoulder to the edge. Good, so as you twist over here, feel as though the inner thigh wants to gently pull towards the ground, so it's going to get a bit active. As the inner thigh gets a bit active, the musculature in the outer hip is going to start to neurologically open a bit. And from that, it's also going to create a bit of a support that as you draw the belly back and draw the shoulders back, it's something to stretch out of and twist out of as opposed to just letting the knee pop back up. Good. One more breath. And then come on to your back as you inhale. Stretch the leg out long. Reposition the hips and shoulders if you need to be a bit more neutral. We'll take a breath. More and more start to feel maybe the sacrum or where the backs of the hips are. That there's some space to lengthen from. And then again, we'll plant both feet in front of the hips. Spine can arch into that back bend. Hips can lift into the air. Shoulders can draw under to get the chest a bit higher, but try not to pull them down to shorten the spine. Keep them lifted. And then we'll do the same thing. You can come up onto your right tippy toes. If you come to the tippy toes and the hips drop, keep them up. And if that's the case, you can start to draw the knee in. As you draw the knee in, again, the bum might drop. Let it be really about pressing down into the ground. The left leg, the shoulders, the head. Good. Release the lifted leg, release the hips. Same as the first side. Come all the way back down. Left knee can draw into the chest. Right leg can stretch along the ground. And then extend your left heel to the ceiling. So you extend the leg up, sink and move the hip away. We're not moving the hip away, because actually imagine it's tractioning or creating space for the low back to open. As the low back opens, you might start to lift and draw the lower spine more and more into its neutral curve. Good. Keep that. Let's bend the knee into the chest again. Same thing, second side. Left arm out, and you can roll to your right. You might need to scoot the hips back or move the shoulders forward. And a bigger breath here. As the knee draws down to the ground, there can be, in contrast, this feeling wanting to draw the belly back, to draw the ribs back. So this whole outer hip to armpit can start to open and create all this space, like it's being pulled out in all these directions. Or the way the connective tissue comes up the legs, the belly, around into the back body and shoulders. Good. One more breath, and then one more time. Come onto your back as you inhale, stretch the leg out. Just a moment or so. We'll pause flat. Good. And then draw both knees to the chest. A little squeeze in for a moment. And then roll to your right side and come up to all fours. As you find all fours, nice grip at the fingertips, nice tuck of the toes. Just a few moments, tip the hips forward and back. I was feeling, create as much of a back bend in the lower spine as you can. And then as much of a rounding in the spine as you can. Good. One more breath here. The next time that you find your back bend, let's bring the right foot to the hands. So if your right foot comes to the hand and the left knee is super sensitive, you can roll the edge of your mat up, or maybe you can get a blanket or something. I think the edge of the mat rolled up is usually a pretty good option without needing anything. Either way, find a bit of a lunge and then scoot that right foot a little bit forwards so you can lift off the toes. Instead of bowing way down, into those groin creases, into the fronts of the hips. I want you to reach the hips back. Feel like you can move the hips and groins back over the rear heel. As the hips move back, this feeling of wanting to just look forwards, just extend the spine forward, just reach towards the toes more than even coming down. Just look for some length, look for some stretch. Good. One more breath here. And bend back into your front knee, come to all fours. A few times, arch and round. A little bit of movement straight up and down. You might even find maybe you want to move the hips a little bit side to side to create a bit of a side bend if that feels nice. And then let's switch sides. Left foot can come to the hands. You can scoot the foot a little bit farther forwards. Roll the mat up for the knee if you like to, or be in the habit of having a blanket or a towel near the mat. And then reach the hips back. As you reach the hips back, look a bit forwards. So it's feeling less about bending down, which tends to maybe make us really want to think forward folded. We want to bend and we get bunched. Instead, get long, extend back in the groins, extend forward in the chest. Good. One more breath. Reach from the outer hip, especially. And then bend back into your front knee. Last time, we'll find all fours. Just arch and round a little bit. At the end of your next inhale, we'll just sweep the feet in front of us and come to seated. Good. So as we find seated, again, if we're tighter, we might get a bit rounded and drop down. So bend your knees a bit if that helps to lift the spine. Good. So sit up nice and tall, or best you can, and then cross your right foot over your left thigh. Work to root the foot down to the ground. Squeeze the knee in. So as you squeeze the knee in, again, that connective tissue that's going to come right up to the low back that stops a lot of the mechanics of the hips, is going to hike the bum up. So push the right hip down, sit the spine up. So just get tall first, get length in the low back. And then into that length, you can bring the right hand behind you. Big inhale, exhale to twist. As you start to twist though, don't lean back. Keep sinking down. Keep deepening the hip crease a lot on the right. Keep lifting through the spine, through the ribs. Good. Even though the torso is turning back, keep drawing the low back forwards. One more breath. As you inhale, you can untwist. Your left hand can come behind you to meet your right hand and just roll the right knee open. Good. As the right knee rolls open, the ankle can stay on the foot. So the tendency now is the spine's going to want to round a lot. So start to bend your left knee in. As you bend your left knee in, you might need to move the hands back to lean into them. We tend to get into this position, we're going to want to be super rounded. So draw up in the spine, lift up, like you're pulling the spine out of the hip so that you can actually create movement. One more breath. Exhale, you can release the legs out. Sit up nice and tall for a moment. And then switch sides. We'll cross the other leg over. Left leg can cross the right leg. And again, just work. Lift the spine up. Really root and sink that groin crease down. Good. Let that create a bit of an anchor, like on our backs, to twist and actually create some stretch and opening true to the tissue of the low back. So sit tall, left hand behind you. Exhale, you can twist to the left. Even though the body's twisting back in the torso, keep drawing the low spine forwards. Keep tipping the hips forward. Well, that tipping is essentially drawing up out of the connective drag into the bum and the hamstrings. Good. Take another breath or so here. Just like we did on the first side, untwist as you inhale. Both hands come behind you, although they might need to come a little bit farther back. Good. Let the knee roll open and then start to bend the right knee. As you bend the right knee back, the sense maybe that you want to lift up, like the bottom of the rib cage is going to come up to hook right onto the shin, which would likely be a bit of a lofty goal, but just to create that sense, we're really trying to pull up and out of those hips, create some space so the low back doesn't feel compressed and dragged upon. Good. So let's take one more breath here. And then stretch the legs out so you can cross the left leg. Sit up nice and tall. And then if you need to, if the hamstrings are very tight, bend your knees in a little bit so the knees can bend up. Slide your heels in a few inches, a half foot, whatever you need to. And squeeze. Make your inner thighs a lot active. So really work to squeeze in at the legs. Hands can hold the outer thighs or the backs of the knees, or they can start to walk a little deeper. Either way, we'll start to work a bit of a forward fold. As you fold forwards, if you feel that your spine feels super rounded, you come down and you get stuck like this, bend your knees a lot so you can work that movement of deepening the hip crease to move the spine forwards. If your hands start to hold maybe to your knees, your calves, your feet, there can be a little bit of a pull with the arm. Not so much to crank you down, but just to draw the shoulder blades together. So shoulder blades draw back to help to pull up from the lower spine. Good. And wherever you're at right now, let the spine round. Drop the head down. Last breath or two. Good. And then from here, let's sit up tall as you inhale. And come on to your backs as you exhale. And just lie flat for a few moments. Good. And pause the breath. Good. One more breath here, and then plant both feet in front of the hips. So similar to like we were standing, but this will let us get a little deeper. Cross your left ankle over your right knee. Grab the back of your right thigh. Let's pull the knee and shin into the chest. This time though, we'll round up and draw the forehead to the knee. Good. Curl in quite tight. Really draw and firm the belly up. And the next time that you exhale, you can release the torso. Take the left hand out and slide the knees together. So you go from ankle to knee, so that you're cross knee to knee. And then draw both knees to the right side, and we'll find a twist. Good. Shift the hips back, move the shoulder forward. And breathe. Imagine sort of all this tissue, it's like wringing out around the hips. And create some space for them. If you draw the knees in, you're going to feel a little bit rounded into the low back. So you can create this sense of really wanting to draw in at the low spine, to twist back. One more breath. The next time that you inhale, you can untwist, uncross the legs, but keep them hugged into the chest. Round up, forehead to knee. Good, so hold on with the arms if you want, or for your next breath, you could release the hands and firm the belly up. Good. Exhale, release the head and chest, release the legs, lie flat for a few moments. More and more as you start to settle, just get longer from the hips to the heels into the low back. Good. One more breath. And then let's switch the sides. And plant both feet in front of the hips. Good. Cross the other ankle. So right ankle can cross over your left knee. We'll hold the back of your left thigh, knee and shin to chest. Good. So when we did this in seated, we really worked that upward lift. In contrast, let's this time really work that rounding, forehead to knee, curl up. See if you can pull the belly in a little deeper. Good. And then release the torso. Take the right hand out so you can slide the knees together. And then drop the knees to the left. Hips might need to come back to the right. Shoulder might need to come over to the left so the body feels a bit straighter, not rounded or arched. And then just twist. Because the knees are crossed, there could be a little bit of a squeezing at the knees to make the inner thighs just a touch active. Just gives you something to pull out of. It's a nice habit to have into. The inner thighs are a big muscle group that's quite underutilized in the leg. Good. One more breath or so here. And when you're ready to, as you inhale, untwist, uncross the legs, and just plant both feet in front of the hips. They might stay where they are. You might draw the heels in a little closer and just pause. Feel as though the weight of the shin bones can settle down into the ankles, the thigh bones can settle down into the hips. Good. So let's take one more breath here. And then draw both knees into the chest again. Knees can splay out a little wider to the outer ribs. So if this feels like it's a good stretch in the hips, or it feels like the bum's really curling off, stay here. If this feels a little bit, it's okay, it's open, we'll reach the hands from the knees up through the inner legs to grab the feet. If they start to grab the feet can start to move over the knees for happy baby. Good, and then just pull the knees down. The more the knees pull down, the more the bum's going to want to curl off. Just a few breaths. Inhale, push your feet into your hands to get a little active. Exhale, pull on the hands to draw the knees down. The knees and feet don't have to come a lot away, but just to get active in the bum and the low back, hamstrings wanting to push. One more time. Good. The next time that you exhale, let's release the legs. Lie flat, stretch them out long, a few deep breaths. Good. Let's take one more breath here. For the last moment or so, draw the feet in again to plant in front of the hips. Open the feet out a little wider to the edges of the mat. Knees can draw together. Similar to how we started. Take a moment here, soften. And so draw the belly and really work to flatten out your low back here. Just a few times. Exhale, like you would roll something up. Just curl. Maybe just the chin tucks to the chest and the head lifts. Drop it back down as you inhale. Exhale, maybe you curl up a little bit more towards a sit-up. So just 2 or 3 times. It might just be chin to chest, just to create a lift, an extension into the back. That eventually might come to more of a sit-up as the belly gets active. As you curl up a few times, again, just follow the breath. Doesn't have to be a big motion. Keep the knees together. And this feeling, the belly doesn't want to push out as it engages, but wants to scoop in. Good. Let's take it one more time. And from that little bit of support at the core, as you exhale, release. Stretch the legs out. A moment or so to adjust. Find your best sense of neutral. The exhales can start to get longer, and from sort of that little bit of a contraction you felt in your belly, from sort of the backs of the hips, the backs of the legs, we stretched and opened a bit. From that space, just settle out through the legs, through the hands, through the head. And although our time here today is about up, I'll encourage you as you settle here maybe to spend another 5 or 10 minutes at your own, just to zone out and allow the body to bring it all together. From Community Classroom Yoga. Namaste.